need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
The next question comes all the way from Rockwall, Texas. Jennifer's writing in. She writes, "Hi, I love listening to your podcast. You're so talented in getting to the heart of the issues in a room and even addressing things that probably weren't on the writer's radar. I am needing help with my 11-year-old daughter's bedroom. I've always struggled with the layout in this small space. The window is large and off-center. How can I use curtains to balance this window? The doorway opens up into one of my best wall space and closet doors, which take up nearly the entire wall. By the way, the closet runs through both door spaces. I don't really know why they made two separate doors. It makes it difficult to use the space behind that tiny bit of wall. I'd really like to have the doorway redone as bifold doors and put in a good closet system so that she wouldn't even need a dresser. It's not in the budget right now, so maybe you can weigh in on this. The room is 1010 by 1010. I recently bought a 6-cube storage piece to double as a nightstand. However, I do still have her old nightstand. I'd like to add a desk or other workspace to her room, hence the need for moving the dresser to the closet. Will vertical furnishings or decor help this room not seem so wall-to-wall furniture? Or should any desk be a color instead of white to help break this up? She's not wanting to make any changes to the space, so I'm compromising by reusing her bird pictures and by turning the hanging birdcage into a mobile with origami cranes. I'm going to put rattan baskets in the bottom 3 cubes as a nod to birds' nests and possibly add a rattan mirror. The bird art and a feather print fabric, colors are mint, aqua, and pink, I plan to make into pillows. These are my inspiration pieces. I'll paint the wall as well. I've attached images of the room from different angles. I truly appreciate your help. Congrats on your upcoming family edition. Both of my children were born in August, so I feel for you with the summer heat at the end of your pregnancy." Well, the good thing, Jennifer, is I was quite concerned. My first summer baby, how's it going to be? It has been really fine. In fact, as you can see, I'm in long sleeve shirt right now. My office does not have air conditioning because it's in the shaded woods, but it still gets, hot. I have long pants on and everything's fine. It's really been kind of chilly out here. When I was in Cape Cod, the weather was horrible and we were wearing, 2 shirts and a hoodie. If anything, I've been a little chilly this pregnancy. Hopefully today at the beach I'll have a different experience because as somebody who loves the heat, I don't know what's going on here. But I really had a lot of anxiety about, how it was going to be pregnant in the summer. Not bad this summer. So the key here, the takeaway for me at least, is, not to worry about things in advance because you'll deal with them. And in this case, I didn't even have to deal with it. So I don't know what I was so worried about. Anyway, let's get to your questions. So basically, it sounds like you're wondering about the layout. And, if you want to see pictures of Jennifer's room, just go to our YouTube channel. They'll all be posted there. So yes, it is a pretty tight room at 10 feet, 10 inches by 10 feet, 10 inches. And in terms of the closet, I hate it when they do that. When they put those 2 closets side by side, I had the same thing in my old house and it goes all the way through and it is so hard to use that space behind the slim piece of wall dividing the 2 doors. You may want to consider in this case, instead of bifolds, you may want to consider some kind of farm door or something. But if you do that sliding door, well, I do like a sliding door. I like it better than a bifold. Bifolds come off the track so easily. I see a ton of problems with them. So I prefer the sliding door side to side. If you did a barn door, you'd have to leave that wall next to the closet empty for it to go into unless, anyway, we won't get into that. So do sliding doors that open one side or the other. But I don't love a bifold. Just think about that. I do think in any room, you need to go vertical. The reason is because you want pieces around the room to undulate high and low and high and low. And if everything's at like this 3 foot height, whether it's the 6 cubby bookcase or the twin bed, then it starts to look really boring and plain and predictable. And also in a room like this, you're just not maximizing its potential. So I would definitely consider using the verticality. And I also would not be afraid to block the window. She does have a beautiful big window, and I can see you're partially blocking it with the bed, which is fine by me, but I also would not be afraid to partially block it with some furniture. Now, when I'm creating a layout for a room, as you know, it's not anything that I ever do on the podcast because I like to try every possible option. But I take the main piece of furniture in the room, which in this case would be that twin bed, and I would try every possible option. I'm not convinced that her bed is in the right placement. And once you do find the right placement for this bed, I think the rest of the pieces will make more sense and fall into place and show you where you can go vertical versus where you can go low. Um, I know she doesn't want to make any changes, but the other thing you could consider in this space, let's see, how old was she? Did you reveal? 11. My daughter's almost 11 as well. One's going to be 11 and one's going to be 11 minutes old. What do we think about that? Anyway, so with 11, a lot of times they are resistant to change. She might be going into middle school. She might be facing a lot of just intrinsic change and may not want her room to feel different. But something that you may want to consider is a loft bed, where then you could use the verticality and have her bed up high and have a lot of functionality down low. That's another idea. And it could be something really cool that she would either love and get super excited by or immediately shut down. My daughter really wanted a bunk bed, clamoring for a bunk bed. I got her a low loft bed when she was young, and then we got her a real lofted bed when she was older. And turns out she didn't really like either of them. So now she's back in just a standard bed and she's happy as a little clam and hasn't ever mentioned a bunk bed since. But I have clients whose tweens and teens are obsessed with bunk beds. So it's something to think about. Now, I feel like you had another question. The one thing that's really bothering me here, which you did not ask about as I re-peruse this, is that a word, re-peruse? The one thing that's really bothering me is this valance on top of the window. So you have just kind of this piece of fabric that's spanning the top of the window. And not only is it encroaching on a lot of the window space, it's eating up a ton of the natural light. And it's just not doing anything for the room. I would be more inclined to put panels on each side that could possibly make the window look wider. And when you hang it higher than the window, it'll also make the ceilings feel a little bit taller. So it'll kind of visually expand the room in some ways. So those are two big changes that I would make: losing the valance, adding the drapes to add a lot of visual bang for your buck. And don't worry that it's off center, like life happens. The other thing that you can do to make a space feel less claustrophobic in terms of like just pushing all the furniture against the wall is to do something on a diagonal, whether it's a fun chair or, a corner bookcase. Something on a diagonal can help to break up all the just pushed furniture against walls if you can't truly float something in the middle of the room, as you probably shouldn't with this smaller room. So think about that, but first start with that layout evaluation. Ask your daughter if she'd be open to some kind of loft bed, see if it's within your budget. If she says no, that's fine, but do reevaluate the placement of this bed and don't be hesitant to block a window, guys. It's okay, especially in small rooms where every inch matters. A big thank you to Aton and the Embassy who wrote our theme song. A shout out to Catherine Heller who owns the podcast shop and is our editor extraordinaire. We also want to thank Ginny Sunasan and her team at the Savvy Podcast Agency for their help with our social, our YouTube channel, and so much more. We also want to thank Uploft, which is our parent company who supports this podcast. And lastly, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support.